Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome back to our second part in our Final Fantasy XIV Let's Play, returning after a several-year hiatus with a brand new character. So in the first part, we just kind of did the beginning stuff. You know, we went over a few basics, getting around town, priority of quests, a few really simple things that a new player could definitely learn from. Today we're going to be continuing that trend. However, we are now level 10. So as a part of the main scenario, as part of our class quest, we're going to start unlocking a handful of new features at this point. And it's possible to really blast through these next several levels. Now, before we do anything else, I want to make sure that I actually go back to Gridania and grab my level 10 class quest. Your level 10 class quest, not something you're going to skip most likely, but it's a very important one, because it actually unlocks you the ability to access the, well, it allows you access for a few things. I guess we should just go through and get it done. But it's what you need in order to change classes. You need to do your level 10 class quest, and then you're capable of changing to any other class and eventually job in the game that you unlock by doing its subsequent entry-level quest. For a lot of the base classes, the only thing that you really need to do entry-level wise is go to the guild physically that has the class you want to learn and speak to the NPC there. With that, there are a total of 9 classes that you can do right from level 1. Well, 8 classes you can do right from level 1. And then after you do the level 10 class quest, a 9th class technically opens up, one that you can't start the game as, and that's Rogue. Now, bear in mind that because you have to physically go to these guilds, it's not really advisable that you... what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really advisable that you contemplate doing it before you're actually able to more easily travel between the various places on the map. A big thing is that until we get the envoy quests, or yeah, the envoy quests, I believe they're called, you can't really get between the city-states super quickly. But when we get to that quest, we will be able to do that. So, like, while the Lancers Guild is right here, for example, here in Gridania, if I wanted to go to, let's say, the Rogues Guild, it's in Limsa-Lominsa. And I can't get to Limsa-Lominsa. And if you started in Limsa-Lominsa, you can't leave the Limsa-Lominsa/Lenosha area until, well, I know someone's going to come out and say, well, actually, if you do this, you can. Most new players will not be under a circumstance where they can leave Lenosha or get to Lenosha without... some sort of, secondary method. That secondary method is if you join a free company and they have a house, and that house is in the Mist. The Mist is in Lenosha, and as such, you'll be able to get there because you could just go to the house and then walk out from there. A very small technicality that most new players will not get to really take advantage of. So we're going to head into a new zone. We're going into Eastern Lenosha right now. And we might as well do a few more hunting logs while we're here. I believe this is the last entry in our level 1 to 10 hunting log, which is still very much worth going out of our way to do. As you can see with the lower item level weapon, only the level 5 weapon, not really doing a whole lot of damage to these things just yet. I do actually have some equipment on me that I should be able to equip at this point, but I started as a conjurer also, so I have the ability to just, heal myself. I just am not able to overpower these enemies. Excuse me if I have to clear my throat a bunch. Little congesty today, but my schedule's a little tight right now, and I really don't want to fall behind on a brand new series. So I'm powering through a little bit just to make sure that I can have a whole bunch of recordings done for a handful of different series, videos, all that good stuff. Because, I just want to be better about that. That's just something that I want to do. All right, after we kill this thing, we are going to... Ooh, my West Coast ping did not save me there. We're going to use our recommended item level. But now, if you're someone who's really bad at keeping track of new gear as you get it, there is a feature to help with that. I've been refraining from using it because I have some gear that I think will auto-equip if I do it. Yeah, my Helm of Light. So I just wanted to see real quick, did I have anything that would come in handy? I do. I'm going to take off the Helm of Light just because I don't want to use the EXP items just yet. But it did say that I had a pair of pants. Plus this quest will give me some new stuff as well. Yeah, so if you're ever just like, I don't know, I don't remember like what gear I picked up. Do I have any upgrades? It's usually a safe enough bet to just press that button. And that will usually do the trick. So keep that button in mind very handily. You're recommended. It's right here, recommended gear, right next to your gear set list, which, by the way, is something that we're also going to be able to get into a little bit as we begin to unlock. Oh, actually, they changed this sometime back. We used to have a lot of limitations on how many of these that we had, how many gear sets we could save, and it was like relative to the number of classes we had unlocked. At some point, they increased that number by a considerable margin. I don't remember when it was, but it's far more easy to use now, I suppose. Not that I need extra gear sets at this level, but if I unlock some other classes, you know, it's nice to just be able to throw some in there. Plus, they, like I said, they made some bonuses in there that we could do. I think there's a second one, isn't there? Nope, not yet. Yeah, after we get this quest done, we will get a level 10 weapon, which will come in handy. Whenever you're looking at weapon, armor, any sort of gear upgrade, the general rule of thumb, especially while you're leveling, is item level is king. There's a few key things that you'll notice, however, excuse me, that can kind of throw that off by a little bit. So when it comes to normal quality gear versus high quality gear, normal quality gear of the same item level is significantly worse. So sometimes, let's say you have dungeon gear, right? Let's say you had like a level, I don't know, a level 35 dungeon piece, right? And I'm just going to make up a level, so excuse me if there's not an actual gear set around this level. And then let's say you get a level 36, just generic NQ piece. There's a good chance it's a higher item level, but it's actually worse. And so it's important to pay attention to the stats because that recommended item level thing can screw you, specifically when you have normal quality gear that is on your person at a time that is not opportune. I believe we have to kill the regular wind sprite first, yes. The tainted wind sprite's the actual boss. Although, if I recall correctly, can you just do this? So I have Repose at this level, and I seem to recall, I might not have enough gear to do this. Like, it might be too dangerous. Yeah, I think it's too dangerous to do this, but I can do that to reduce the damage that I take through this section, since I don't have a lot of gear. It's not the most unsafe thing, yeah, because then we eventually get them to show up, and they largely deal with everything else. Leave the healing to me. Yeah, I remember, just, like, letting him heal me and then just blasting through this with, like, reposing them. I have vague memories of doing that, but I had, like, a little bit better gear then, so maybe I'm slightly misremembering. Just, it's a little tiny optimization that doesn't really matter. Most people shouldn't bother just... Some of these missions, you'll feel really safe zerging them down, and then you'll get to one where you might actually need to try, and it suddenly becomes, like, a problem that you didn't really care about, like, what you're supposed to be doing on that mission. It's especially important if you're leveling a healer to pay attention. Sometimes they expect you to heal NPCs, being that you are doing healer quests. So it's important to notice, and a lot of the times the dialogue from the NPCs will be the key thing that tells you if that's what you're supposed to be doing. So reading is, I think it goes without saying, is pretty important in role-playing games. But I know that in MMOs, it's easy to just kind of decide to skip over text. I still do it. Like, it's totally normal and expected thing. But Final Fantasy XIV, a lot of the information you may be able to use to help you through those solo instances. And honestly, not even just through those. There are some times where more advanced content gives you really great hints via text. Sometimes the only hint you get is via the text that you get. So it's really, really important that you contemplate and pay attention to how much, like, you're actually giving attention to the text. So in that case, you know, the NPC says, leave the healing to me, channel your energies into offense. So that's your sign to, really basic one, to just stop casting Cure on yourself. Don't worry about your health. The NPC will get you. Now, I'm sure the NPC could still screw that up. Don't get me wrong. But generally speaking, that's your sign to just go, go, go with the 2 DPS buttons you actually have at this level. When we get to the White Mage quests, eventually, there will be points where the NPCs go, I'll take care of this. Just make sure you keep me alive. Or they'll say something along those lines, right? So pay attention. All I'm telling you to do is read and pay attention, because a lot of the times it's really easy to miss that information. While we're going to turn this in, the day I'm recording this is actually the same day that new content came out. It's called Cosmic Exploration. It's I'll say it's high level. You really only need to be level 10 to do it, but you need to have progressed through almost every expansion. You need to have gotten through the Endwalker expansion before you're technically allowed to do it. But then you can do it as, any level crafter, gatherer, level 10 or above. But the patch notes for that tell you where to unlock it, how to get there if you leave the instance. It tells you what all the currencies do. It tells you the reward structure. It gives you all the pertinent information. And obviously, I stream. And so it was not uncommon that during this time, everyone would come in and be like, so how does this? And I'd be like, and answer somewhat begrudgingly / passive aggressively. It depended on my mood, to be honest. But yeah, the game holds you to the expectation that I'm not going to say that you'll always read, but to the expectation that you are capable of reading. I'd say that's like a good minimum that it expects from me. And that's true of these quests too. Now, you saw there that it mentioned that I had the Armory unlocked. That's what I was talking about earlier, where now I can actually... Is that really just in here? Okay. Now I can actually swap to another class if I do the quest for it. And I say quest, it's really just you go to the NPC, tell them, I want to be a Lancer. And then they'll give you Lancer, and then you can take the level 1 quest afterwards. The one that I did for my own class quest. And so now I can do that. So if I wanted to swap to Lancer and try another class, I could. Now, another really important detail about that is the Armory system comes with a feature called the Armory bonus. Now, there's always been a lot of misunderstanding about how this feature works. What people thought that it did for the longest time is they thought that if you had a max level job, all your other jobs got an EXP bonus. That is technically how it works, but it's kind of like the square is a rectangle, rectangle is a square thing, So while yes, if you are max level, all of your other classes, all of your other jobs are going to get a boost to the EXP you earn. But that's not the requirement for the feature. The Armory bonus is simply a bonus that you get for being on any job that is a lower level than your highest level job. So I just unlocked the Armory feature at level 10. If I were to swap to Lancer, I would have the Armory bonus up to level 10 because that's the highest level job that I have. And it's a significant bonus at the lower levels. Basically throughout the first 90 levels, it doubles the amount of EXP that you get from killing monsters. And that's especially important when it comes to dungeons. So you'll get just a massive amount more EXP while you're clearing overworld mobs, doing hunting logs, doing dungeons. It's a really solid bonus. But it applies to everything. And I say, I say killing monsters. That's not all it is. Rested EXP is exclusively from killing monsters. The Armory bonus does work on other things. It does work on quests. It does work on fates. It works on certain quests, I think. It's been a while. So this is actually the main reason why I want to do this video. These are little details I used to know absolutely verbatim, and I have interacted with them so seldom by playing a max level character all these years that sometimes the little nuances of what exactly does the Armory bonus apply to? I just haven't had to regurgitate that information. It's one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring this series back, because I really wanted to fully understand what a new player experience is like nowadays and refresh my own memories and my own experience with it. I've leveled 1 to 50 for side videos. I've done, other characters, but I haven't done just a straight up play through the game, experience it with as little of the, the whistles, bells and whistles that I usually have. And, yeah, I think it's going to be a valuable thing for me as a content creator. And hopefully it's a valuable thing for you, because as I find the mistakes that I may make, I can easily correct them within the series itself. The comment section will be full of people who either Google the information because they want to confirm afterwards, or just have that in their memory banks to begin with. So this series can hopefully become just like the original series was, a composite of useful information for brand new players. That was always what I wanted for the first one. I just got bored of doing it. I'm not as concerned about this happening this time because I put a lot of pressure on releasing the old Let's Play videos very often, and I burned myself out of that one. This one, not the case. This one, I can pretty comfortably go at my own pace and get this information out at a relatively healthy pace. And then hopefully someone eventually stumbles upon it, and just like the old series, it becomes something that's just kind of a mark of history, almost in a sense, if that makes sense. And I'm excited to do that. You know, Final Fantasy XIV has been around for such a long time, and it's been, for me, it's been 15 years, because I played 1.0, which came out in September of 2010. Early access was September 27th. The official release was September 30th. Then 3 years later, in August of 2013, we got A Realm Reborn. So I feel like the more I can leave behind with Final Fantasy XIV, things that chronicle eras of Final Fantasy XIV as they were, whether it be a Let's Play or it be, you know, a raid guide or whatever my reason is or whatever my main motivation is, I feel like that's important. And I look forward to doing that. Now, another thing I look forward to is finding out where this Anole egg is, because I don't remember where the Anole eggs are. There's one. So keep in mind, if you are leveling a caster or a healer, that Repose can be your greatest friend for if you just want to skip a bunch of mobs and get to a quest objective. It is a very, very valuable thing to do. Because sometimes you will run into quests like this where you're like, oh, like I don't need to kill the mobs. I just need to get the thing. So it could be really handy for that. It's one of the reasons why I love going healer. The casters, like I said, can do this too. So if you started as Thaumaturge, it would be another advantage you could have. There's even some really, really cheesy stuff you can do in the other class quests with it in order to mitigate all the ads that are spawning while you zerg down the boss. Whole lot of little things. See, I remember a lot of these little things, but the Armory bonus, I know the Armory bonus also applies to a lot of other, to get back on topic of that, I know the Armory bonus absolutely applies to other contents. I know Fates. I know that there's other content. Like if I started naming content, you as a new player, you wouldn't know, but like Bozia, for example, benefits from the Armory bonus at the higher levels. That's a really big one. I think leave quests also do, but leave quests aren't really that common to do anymore. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff works on it, I guess is my point. And I'll remember it all as we go throughout the series when I eventually level a second class. Now, what's really funny is last time I did this series, I think you still had to level other classes to unlock jobs. And that's crazy because that's so long ago. And yeah, you don't need to do that anymore. It hasn't been that way for a very long time, mind you, but it kind of makes me think back that that's how old the series, the original Let's Play series was, that was something I had to consider. It's wild. It's kind of like a crazy thing to think about, you know, how long it's been. No. Well, either way, we are getting through. Now, Armory bonus was, the Armory feature / bonus was one of the major features I wanted to talk about today. But we are going to be getting into some other ones that are largely outdated, but I will make some specific notes about them because it's not an inherently bad idea to go out of your way and do some of these things for a number of different reasons. And as we get to them, I'll explain it. Now, realistically, getting to level 15 should be my focus. Level 15 is where I will say the game sort of activates at level 15. At that point, you get enough of the basic game features that you can start to kind of piece together a casual gameplay plan. Like if I'm only going to be able to play, you know, X number of days for Y number of hours, and you're not like, you know, someone like me who has so much privilege to be able to play the game as much as I do. And that's what it is. You know, I'm glad I get to do what I do, but I also need to speak from a place of honesty. Most people cannot and will not be playing the game the way I do. And nor should you, to be completely honest. But at level 15, you could start to actually develop sort of a daily routine for when you don't have a lot of time to play. And it's incredibly valuable as a more casual player to understand those features that come out around those times. I can name a few of them now. I don't know how valuable that would be, but I guess to preempt you for it. At level 15, the challenge log is a really big one. It is a weekly log that's full of, well, challenges, basically little mini completion quests that you can do for a big boost in experience points. There's all sorts of different bonuses across different content, but generally speaking, there's some really, really good leveling methods in there. And you would be remiss to not kind of at least consider some of them. Some of them I'd say are a little too much effort for what the reward is, and they have very fringe uses that only people who are like as crazy as I am will really go out of their way to capitalize on, and only at very select times in the game's progression, like usually at like expansion launches or stuff. There's like little things that we can find ways to abuse and, you know, get really quick levels at the start of an expansion. Challenge log's a part of that. You'll also get the duty roulette, which well, okay, I say you'll get duty roulette at 15. By the way, these features, when I'm saying 15, I largely mean MSQ level 15, not your character level 15. Character level 15, I believe, does work for the challenge log, but I do think you need the envoy quest that I was talking about done. A, to get to it because it's a Limsa Lominsa, but B, to even be allowed to unlock it, I'm pretty sure as well. Like, I think it has the prerequisite of the envoy quests. But yeah, when you get around the level 15 MSQ, shortly after that, you're going to start getting dungeons, and the dungeons will give you access to the duty roulette. Duty roulette is a daily feature that you can access where it'll just throw you into one of the random dungeons you've unlocked, and you complete it and you get rewards. The very first one you'll get is the leveling roulette. Actually, that will probably not be the first one you get now that I think about it. There is one other feature. Guildhest roulette. That one's not very good, but I will make specific mention of a combination of effects you can get after level 15, specifically when dealing with the Guildhest in combination with the challenge log. But the duty roulette leveling feature is a fantastic way as a new player or as a player with limited time on a daily or weekly basis to just get a huge chunk of experience. And you can do that to level alternate jobs. You can use that to level your main job. You have options about what you really want to do with it. And that just makes it a really versatile thing. And then as you level up, you'll get more and more duty roulettes. Some of them are also used for leveling. Some of them have been used for... Some of them can be used for earning endgame resources. Some of them you could just use for... I don't even know. Just to fill your... Like, maybe you just like doing them with friends. You know what I mean? You don't really need a super dedicated reason to do them. Some of them are even part of quests, the duty roulettes, although you probably won't be concerning yourself with most of those quests anytime soon. So it's just a really important feature. And it's one that, again, before you unlock it, you're largely playing like a single player RPG. Oh my goodness, my cat. Ivy, no, don't step on the... Ivy, stop! I should have known this was going to happen. That's on me. Oh, wait, no, never mind. It's right out there. If you ever hear me start yelling Ivy, that's my cat. Well, in the case of this video, it's one of my cats. Well, I think by the time this video comes out, I will still only have one cat, or still only be a responsible being to a single cat. I'm not going to sleep these things. I'm just going to de-aggro them. Come on. There we go. Yeah, but at some point you may be seeing this video, and Ivy may not be the only cat. You may be hearing me yell out a plethora of names. Or as I like to say, just to upset people, a plethora. Alright, let's get this done. I probably won't make this video too super long, just because of the congestion I'm having. I'm also... So, I actually want some feedback on this as well. Since we're still in the early section and I don't have a whole lot of knowledge to pass along, there's one thing I definitely want feedback on. So one of my problems personally, my own actual feedback on the original Let's Play series I did. For a while, I was trying to make a video on... Basically, every video was a direct continuation of the previous video, where I would... do everything. Like if you saw me log off in a spot, the next time you picked up on the video, I should be in a very similar spot, like just literally log in and go. At some point, I decided that just wasn't very interesting, or of my personal opinion, it wasn't. And I decided basically doing boring stuff in between more important video functions. Okay, so actually, I'm going to stop doing that before we go to that. In rooms available is important. In rooms are going to eventually be a very important feature. And Guildleves, for combat jobs, Guildleves are not really that important. And we'll go over both of those features here in a second. But yeah, let's let that turn in. Let's accept the next one. I will say I do think you should accept the quest to do Guildleves. It is important to do the very first one. So we will grab that, and that's going to take us out to Bent Branch, where we're going to do our first leave quest. But first, the in-room. The in-room is just kind of like a chill little space that you can hang out. It has a bed. It has a few other features in it. Now, you cannot customize this in any capacity. There are apartments and there are houses that you can try to bid for. But there's a lot of features in here that new players are eventually going to love. The Orchestrion is used to collect music from throughout the game. And then you can play that music on the Orchestrion. If you have an apartment or a house, there are also little radio devices that you can use to put Orchestrions in those locations as well. The summoning bell will be used for your retainer. Your retainer is basically your market board, like NPC character. They can be sent out on gathering and crafting missions that are incredibly useful. They can be sent, well, let me rephrase. They can be sent out on combat or gathering missions that can get you resources and level them up, and then that can be used to get you some rare items. Some of the time they are very valuable items. They have additional inventory where you can store. They can place items on the market board for you to sell. You can vendor items just for NPC like gil value. You can store gil on them. Incredibly useful. You will, as soon as you can unlock retainers, you will probably want to. Now, I will say this. Unfortunately, if you're a free trial player, you cannot get a retainer. One of the restrictions. So there's kind of breakpoints where you have to decide if a feature is worth paying for the game. Retainers is your first time. The second time will be when you get to 300,000 gil, which is the gil cap for the free trial. I don't know when that will be, but we will see. The Crystal Bell allows you to call the Aesthetician. Now, this is unlocked, I believe, at level 15, same level as the challenge log, in basically the same exact areas where the challenge log is unlocked in Limsa Lominsa. Literally, like, I think the NPC is a few steps over. Lets you, like, restyle your hair and do a couple of other things. I'm not big on it. I don't really change my characters much. I don't even have it unlocked on my main character. And like I said, I've been playing this game for 15 years, and that feature has been in there for over 10 of them. The Glamour Dresser lets you store items. I haven't unlocked it yet, so I can't show it. But it'll let you store items in the Glamour Dresser, and then you can make, like, cosmetic appearances for yourself that you kind of put over your gear that's completely separate from the stats that you have. It's kind of a mess, but it does, at the very least, if you're not super big on your character's appearance and you don't really care about, you know, trying to store a bunch of, like, glamour, like a bunch of gear that you can use as glamours, it's extra inventory space at the end of the day. So don't be surprised if you do that. Armory, very similar. A lot of items can be stored in here, both as a singular item and as a set. And it just acts as a place where you could put things like event items or like certain like specific old sets that are part of quest lines. So good to have. The toy chest, if you ever unlock a mini game from a side quest line, you could replay it here. So it's just for people who like to, you know, have a fun playing a little bit extra. There's not very many that you can unlock if you haven't been playing the game the entire time. The Unending Journey lets you rewatch cutscenes. So if there's ever like a cutscene that you just wanted to go back and watch, maybe try another dialogue option if it has dialogue options available, you can do that here. And the bed is just a fancy way of logging off. You can try online store gear here with the Dream Fitting feature. It's not something I've done, but the online store does sell its own glam, and you can try that on here. But other than that, the bed, when you log off in your in-room, you'll get a fancy login animation where you get out of bed. You don't even have to log off by like actually clicking on the bed, but the bed does act as like a log off feature as well. And also your in-room does act as a sanctuary. So you do get Recipe XP while you're in your in-room, but you get the same thing out here too. I'm just reiterating that it is also a sanctuary that works the same way. This NPC we're not going to talk about yet. This NPC is going to be very relevant very soon. So we have that leave quest, and we're going to go do that because that's going to unlock another feature. Now, leave quests are basically bonus quests that you can spam that recharge daily. You get 3 charges for leave quests every 12 hours, And so you get 6 a day, and it caps at 100 allowances. So you'll see here, you pull up the menu, you get a quest from this menu. It'll tell you the EXP, the gil, any bonus items you might get. And then we just have to go to where the quest is, which will be marked with this kind of darker circle over here with the outlines. We open the menu right here, and we click initiate. Now, you don't have to initiate it when you're even there. I tend to initiate it before I get there. And then you can even choose a difficulty. If you want to increase the level of the mission that you're doing by up to +4, then you can do that. It basically just makes a level 10 leave quest good all the way up to level 14. And then you have level 15 leave quests, etc., etc. These were kind of like in a Realm Reborn staple. Like, a lot of people use them more back then than they do now, at least for the combat ones. The combat ones have largely been abandoned at the higher levels, and they're not very useful at the lower levels. So it's not something I can honestly recommend that you do for combat jobs. That being said, at the higher levels, crafters and gatherers can make fantastic use of them. And not to mention at the higher levels, they actually are worth a decent amount of gil. If you're really diligent, you can earn a ton of gil just by burning through your allowances frequently enough, depending on which one it is and how cheap it is for you to make items for it. There was an entire expansion where one of the best money-making methods in the entire expansion was leave quests, and it was just making these things called coffee biscuits. And hordes and hordes of people got into crafting for just that one item to make it for the leave quest to make gil. Nowadays, we don't make nearly as much relative gil for effort as we did with coffee biscuits, but it's still not the worst idea if you can like craft your own stuff and it's like not too much of a hassle for you to do. For you to still do them. I know people that still burn through all their leave quests and just make a little bit of gil off of it. And, you know, whether or not the effort is actually worth it, it doesn't matter. They at least have a use. There are also some achievements associated with leave quests. One of them is an achievement that requires you to do so many leave quests that it takes 7 years to earn the in-game achievement. Now, the only reason why I recommend that you do that feature is to unlock this one, simply the Hest. This unlocks Guildhests. Now, Guildhests are tutorial style instances that teach you the basics about the game, or at least they're supposed to. Nowadays, most of the time you get parties that go into Guildhests, they will decimate the content, and it will, like, you will not learn anything. Like, maybe some of them you'll still learn something, but most of them you will learn barely anything. You will just brute force through them. This unlocks the Duty Finder, which is where you'll eventually go through dungeons, raids, all sorts of other features. So, once again, this feature has kind of been outpaced. It's not really that useful anymore. There are a couple of minor uses for it, though. One, you do get a completion bonus. Like, a 1300 EXP when I need 10,000 to level, honestly, is nothing. And that's a one-time bonus per job. So, you know, your other classes, you can technically use this at level 10 to get a small boost. And I mean, 1,000 gil, honestly, the 1,000 gil is almost worth it more. Not that you won't get a ton of gil anyway, but you know, it's still that. But we're not going to actually do it now. Guildhests, we can instead use for the challenge log. So one of the things you can do in instances is you can commend other players for their performance, or maybe because you just feel bad for them. You know, like sometimes, you know, healers, they get commendations all the time. Tanks, they get commendations all the time. I know DPS that literally they just assume that them and the other DPS will handshake and give each other a commendation. And it's not that uncommon. So that's what I mean by feel bad for them. I mean, not so much that they actually pity them, but that both the DPS are so used to not getting it that they just kind of handshake and give it to each other. But the big thing is that there's a challenge log for giving players commendations. And because the game has the ability to do a lot of dungeons, not roulettes, but dungeons with trusts, there's a good chance that you just don't run into as many opportunities to give players commendations. But it's just free experience. So it's not uncommon for players to use Guildhests, which are incredibly quick, especially the one that I was hovering over, that very first one. They literally just go in and give up some commendations that way, and that's it. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that's a lot less good of an idea than it used to be. I think there was a point in time where that made more sense, and that point in time has largely passed. but it's at least worth mentioning. Maybe you gave out some commendations as part of your roulettes while you were playing throughout the week, and then you have like one left you need to get for the challenge log, and it's like, I don't know, like 5-10% of a level for doing that challenge log. You might just say to yourself, you know what? Let me just do a Guildhest real quick. And a brand new character who will likely not be doing as many challenge logs if you are not constantly doing duty roulettes or you're not constantly queuing into dungeons specifically with other players, and are instead opting to queue in with trusts, which are NPCs, unless you can't give them commendations, then it might be your method of making use of that challenge log. So it's just something to consider. A lot of these methods, again, have largely been outpaced just by the speed of the game increasing, but I like to make mention. Here's the thing. At worst, you do it and go, that wasn't really for me. And at best, it ends up being, you know, still somewhat useful to players. And at the very least, I'll say that it's nice to kind of reminisce on the game's history of how some of these things were handled back in the day. Because again, as much as this video series is more meant to be representative of the current era, it's important to see how things may have changed. Like, my understanding of something that might be a good idea could no longer be a good idea. So I should stop recommending it to people. And when we go through and do some of these things, I'll get a better grasp of how it actually fares nowadays. And then again, I can adjust my own recommendations, and it'll just make me a better player as a whole, a more informed player as a whole. All wins as far as I'm concerned. But for now, we're just trying to truck through these quests to get to the Envoy quest. With skipping the cutscenes, it goes pretty fast. And when we get to level 15, we also have another class quest. And at that class quest, I will get another weapon. All your class quests are going to give you weapons. Your job quests don't give you weapons, but your class quests do. Your job quests don't need to give you weapons. I'm pretty sure the main scenario starts giving them to you at that point. And once you start getting into dungeons, the odds are that you'll pick up some gear is pretty decent nowadays. One feature we've had it for a while now, but one feature we have nowadays that we didn't have back when I first made the video was that when you complete a leveling dungeon, a dungeon that is specifically made for leveling, which is not every dungeon, mind you, you get a piece of gear when you beat the final boss. One that you don't have for your current job specifically. Now, that could be a weapon. That could be an accessory. Most of the time it's not accessories, so it's usually left side pieces. It depends on the dungeon and what gear is actually available in it. But you get something. And it just makes the leveling life a whole lot easier. All right, so remember when I said we're going to repose some of these things? There we go. I will say this also for the challenge logs. Eventually, fates will also be another really important thing to do. I would say this, again, you don't really have to do fates, I would say, at all, unless you A, want an achievement, a specific achievement for fates, or B, you are at least at the Shadowbringers expansion. Shadowbringers expansion and up is worth the time to do leave quests a lot more. Because there's just better features. There's a whole extra currency to them that gets added when you get to the higher expansions. And so it's just a really good idea to start doing them at that point. There's like a whole bunch of stuff that gets tied to them at those higher levels. So it just becomes a lot more useful. Until that point, if you want to stop and do the fates, fine. If you don't, doesn't matter. But there are challenge logs for doing fates. So if it seems like it'll be something that'll just be quick and easy to pick up, give it a shot. What are you going to lose, right? You really don't have anything to lose. But you can see, like, we're just trucking through. I hit 13, I hit 14, like, just go, go, go. The leveling pace goes pretty quick. In fact, I have some old leveling videos that might still be some of the best methods to level. I got to redo my level 1 to 50 guide because I want to see how fast I can do 1 to 50 on a secondary job, so with the Armory bonus. And I'm trying to determine how much EXP bonus I want on that. But I have a video where I did like 1 to 50 in like 7.5 hours. And I actually considered that slow for that video. I feel like I could have done it in 6.5 hours if I was being more optimal about it. And I want to see if I can do that faster now. There's more items that could help with that now. So it might go even faster on that virtue alone. But, yeah, I don't know. It's been a while. And again, I like to update myself information-wise on that kind of stuff. So that might be a video that we do. I don't think we do that as part of this series. I might take that method and use it just because if it's as good as I remember, then why wouldn't I? But I don't remember. Oh, man. Yeah, you know what I don't think I mentioned at all in the first video? Speaking of leveling. So I'm on Sargatanas, which I'm pretty sure is just your run-of-the-mill world. But sometimes there is what's called a preferred world bonus. A preferred world just gets a massive boost to the experience that you can earn if you make your new character on that world. I think there are others. I think you can get the bonus for like transferring on to the world. But it's basically a bonus that lasts up until you have... What is it? I think it's up until you have a job at level 90? Oh, no. I'm thinking of a different thing. No. So that bonus works for either 90 days or until the world is no longer preferred, whichever lasts longer. So let's say you make a character on a preferred world and it stays preferred for 300 days. And then on the 301st day, it's no longer preferred. That's how long your buff would last. So it's 90 days or however long it takes to get unpreferred, whichever's longer. So if you were to make the character and the world were to become unpreferred like 5 days later, you would still have 85 more days on top of that to reap the benefits of that. So when you're making a new character, it's worth considering, but I will say this. If a world is preferred, it's often because it's lower population. And if it's lower population as a server, nowadays, that usually means it's on a lower population data center, which means it's normally on the data center on NA at the very least, called Dynamis. And in terms of the ability to complete group content, most players on Dynamis either use the party finder to make groups, which is like it's a feature that allows you to post, like if you want to do what's it called? Like a quest or like a dungeon or something that requires other people. You basically can post on a board and go, hey, I'm looking for people for this, looking for these jobs, looking for this item level, etc., etc. It basically allows you to post a flyer to make a group for a piece of content. Dynamis almost exclusively does party-related content there. Because we have trust in the early game, it's not that big a deal. But in the later game, a lot of people on Dynamis travel to, let's say, Ether, which is a much busier data center, to just find more groups to actually do that higher level content. So there are other reasons why you could travel for other features. PvP, for example, its ranked season only happens on certain servers per season. So like there are other reasons why you might, but like that's kind of the main one. And so I will say that as great as the EXP bonus can be on preferred worlds, whether or not that's still the most comfortable decision for you to make a character strictly for that reason is a bit of a question mark. It both has more benefits if you don't get to play the game a whole lot and less. Because if you're not playing as much, then you're not using the bonus nearly as much. But if you aren't playing as much, then you also are making the time that you can play way more valuable. So, yeah, I mean, it's up to you. I don't think that there's a safe decision that I could like put in your direction that is wholly true no matter what. So I won't do that, but I will say that I'm not wild about the idea of making characters on preferred worlds. Just personally speaking, it's not something that really screams to me. So I'm coming down here because I do have a hunting log. You will also unlock a dungeon here later in the game. And there's another reason why I'm here. I'm pretty sure I can do the Hall of the Novice at this level now. Hall of the Novice is a level 15 piece of content that teaches you the basics of how to play in a party, how to do dungeons, how to do... It's a far more informative entry-level bit of information for a new player that comes with amazing rewards for the level range. And will probably be the last thing we do for this video. So I'm going to head over here and do it. Now, you remember that NPC that I mentioned? Oh, actually, so fun little thing. Mobs have different aggro types in this game. And among them is sound aggro. Sound aggro means that if you run by them, they will aggro. Whereas sight aggro means you have to walk in front of them. And a lot of monsters in this area are sound aggro. So I think we can do this now. Yeah, so that's just them explaining yes, so this feature becomes available at level 15. The main scenario will take you right to a Hall of the Novice NPC, but if you know where they are and you're already at level 15, then you can do it early. And there's a lot of benefits to doing it early. So again, first, they're going to teach you the basics about how all of the more like quintessential party-based mechanics work. And every single one gives you a really good piece of armor that works at level 15, like dungeon level gear that, given we're not even at dungeons yet, is just so strong. The most important thing, though, is when you finish all of these level 15 Hall of the Novice entries, you get a ring called the Brand New Ring. This is a level, I believe, 1 ring that increases your EXP gained up to level 30. Now, technically, it works up until level 31 because it works at level 30 also. But, I mean, do I need to explain to you why that's an important thing to stop and get? I don't think I do. Funnily enough, in the more recent patches, they also added a higher level Hall of the Novice, which rewards yet another very good item. So all we're doing here is avoiding his attacks. You can see that the objective on the right says avoid the enemy's attacks. Again, if you don't read that stuff, then read what the NPCs are saying. Time I switched to a new technique. Better change your dance steps. See, now he's letting you know. Very nice. You're doing wonderfully. That's just letting you know. Now, if you do get hit, the NPC will start telling you, hey, dude, come on, play better. Now they're going to shoot their own ones. So this is just trying to get you cognizant of dodging AoEs while you're playing. I would say that even though you can't actually kill these opponents, it's worth considering actually hitting them. One of the big things you will have to do in the later parts of the game is you will have to get used to what is it called? To moving and attacking at the same time. And especially on a caster, that involves a lot of what's called slide casting, where you have a brief moment when you cast spells. So your cast time on most of your spells is 1.5 seconds on most jobs at this point. That's not entirely true. Of course, there's everyone knows that I know that not every single spell is 1.5. Anyone who's like watched me knows I don't think that. But generally speaking, a lot of spells have a downtime between when the spell finishes casting and when the next spell can be cast. So that's the cast time versus the cooldown of the spell. It is a pretty important thing as a caster or a healer to be cognizant of that time and use it to position for boss attacks to make your movement around the arena far more smooth. Now, there are, of course, instant cast abilities that you can use as well for more prolonged periods of time. But those are both important skills that you'll want to learn. And this is a great opportunity. So even though I couldn't kill those NPCs, practicing hitting DPS buttons while dodging the skills and not getting hit is a core Final Fantasy skill that even max level players to this day struggle with. So the sooner you're thinking about it, the sooner you're practicing it. You don't have to be a master right away, but it should be something you begin to ingrain in your head as soon as possible. Also, the gloves that I got from the first one, as you can see, very good. Item level 17, have a whole bunch of stats on them. And that's basically what all of the pieces are going to be like. Now, they do a whole big explanation here. But honestly, while their reading, again, is important, your duty information on the right. Heal your ally and defeat the axe-wielding training partner. Your primary concern should be healing your ally. See? The reading is doing the majority of the information for me. So even though I can definitely help kill them, this is the healer role quests. So I don't want to neglect what my primary objective is. Because they will take care of the healing partner. There may be time to weave in some offensive magic. See, that's their way of saying that you might be a healer in this game, but you are absolutely going to be dealing damage. And let me tell you, if you are picking up healer, even in group content, Final Fantasy XIV is a game that frequently utilizes the meme. That's not really a meme, mind you. That there's the DPS role, there's the green DPS role, and there's the blue DPS role. Green being healers, blue being tanks. Everyone in this game is a DPS. Everyone's DPS contribution is ultra important in the end game. And if you're ever just not doing anything, doing nothing is in every case always going to be worse than doing something. So hitting the boss is important. Yes, you are responsible for keeping your party alive. And yes, if it is nerve-wracking for you to do it, to constantly be dealing damage and heal, I'm not going to say don't do both. I'll say focus on your main role first, which is to heal, and gradually get comfortable with your tools to the point where you weave in more and more damage. Really experienced healers, more often than not, 90+% of their global cooldowns, their spell casts, are offensive. Like, it's a lot. So you really want, if you want to do endgame content in 14, it is not a skill you can afford to pass up on. So I want to get you inundated on that as soon as possible. And even the Hall of the Novice kind of wants you to get inundated on that as soon as possible. Now, I didn't equip the new boots that we got. I actually have a moment here where I might be able to get them on. Yep. Doesn't matter. So for this training exercise, maintain the health of your allies and defeat the enemy. So once again, very similar to the previous one, but now we have 2 allies. And more enemies will appear. So as you can see, I now might have to heal multiple targets, and I can help kill this other target as well. So this is just getting you used to, again, getting you used to the idea of just doing more than one thing at a time. Now, again, if this makes you nervous seeing them get to below half, remember, the only HP that truly matters is the last one. I know that sounds like it's cope / a meme, but it's also in its own way true. If you can let people kind of heal slowly or ensure that you can kill a monster faster so it doesn't get to do its more dangerous attacks, that in a lot of ways ends up acting as its own way of reducing the amount of healing you need to do. Like, if I only healed that archer and didn't help kill that, quick-fisted training partner faster, that means that that archer is going to take even more attacks. And I'm going to have to do even more healing and even more healing. And you don't really want that. Now, that has its limits, of course. You're not going to, I'm not saying that, you need to just kind of race against your allies' HP. Definitely don't do that. But, I think you get the point. You just want to make sure that you're actually hitting your opponent. Let's put on our new legs. All right. Avoid engaged targets. And keep in mind, depending on the role that you're playing, these quests will be slightly different. And on top of that, the brand new gear that you get will be different. So, let's say that I'm leveling my healer now. This gear is good for all Disciples of Magic. So this is healing and casting gear. So, my Thaumaturge could use this, my Conjurer can use this, my Arcanist can use this, great. But it's not made for battle jobs. So when you go to do the tank ones, and you go to do the melee ones, they have their own sets. So you can redo the Hall of the Novice on those other roles to at least get the left side armor set. The brand new ring is not different. That you only get one of those. If you drop your brand new ring, you can do Hall of the Novice again to get another one, but you don't need to go all the way through and get to that, I suppose is the point. All right, defeat enemies while healing allies and avoiding attacks. So this is the last one again, but now combined with needing to avoid getting hit as well. So you see, I'm not actually able to hurt that person. That person's just going to aim AoEs at me. Again, just getting you ready for the idea of having multiple responsibilities at the same time. Now they're going to actually start aiming other AoEs at me. So you might have noticed that on that one, I was really close to being inside of that AoE. In fact, it might have looked like my foot was inside. Final Fantasy XIV does not use your entire character's model as a hitbox. Every character, if you notice under this guy, you see how he has like a little target ring under him? I shouldn't have done that. You know, see how that guy has a little target ring under him? I mean, I still completed it anyway. Okay, never mind. Let me just target myself real quick, I guess. Funnily enough, in order for me to target myself, I either have to use an F key. Oh, no, there we go. It's because that mission was done. Yeah, so one feature I like to turn on. UI settings, party list. I turn off hide party list when solo. So I can always see my name, and then I move my party list over here, mind you. And then I can click on myself. So you see how there's a little target ring right here? There's 1 pixel in the very center. You can't see it. It's not like a visible pixel. It's like right there. That is the only place that your character has a hitbox. So you might see people that look like they're kind of 1 foot inside of an AoE, and they're perfectly safe. And you might have some moments where you do some really cool stuff where you're just barely, what looks like you're barely just inside one, and you're A-okay too. But it's worth remembering that you don't need to be like, you don't need to overcorrect out of every AoE, but I also wouldn't undercorrect and just be like, oh, you know, I'm just playing around the pixel. I wouldn't do that either. Yeah, for that one, also, one big thing. So something a lot of players do is they're allergic to stacking up or standing on other players in Final Fantasy XIV. I will say in the early levels, you're better off being loosely spread. Not like crazy on other sides of the room, but like loosely spread around the tank slash, you know, boss that you're actually fighting. But don't be afraid to stand closer to other players, because there's a lot of spells where in order to be in range of other players, you kind of just, you can't do that. You can't just be like off in the distance, just like living in your own world, because it actually just makes healing harder. It makes getting buffs harder. It makes everything harder. Now, we're on the last hall of the Novice entry, and this one's just we're basically going to fight our way down this hill and just kill a bunch of enemies. And it puts just the objectives we've had so far to test. Like, new enemies are going to spawn and go after your archer. You have to heal the gladiator. There's going to be, you know, it helps when you actually help attack enemies. So this is, again, just putting all of the skills that you've learned to use. And this is the one that will give you the brand new ring as well. Also, I will say this. This is a very silly way for them to teach you to, like, split targets and split healing. It is very much expected that a tank will pick up another mob if it spawns. It is not like... I will say there are situations where you don't do that as the tank, but in the majority of situations, you're helping. The tank isn't just going to be like, well, I'll hold this one. That's on you guys. In the lower levels, it's a lot more acceptable, and with certain enemies, it's not that abnormal. But I'm not going to sit here and act like it's normal either. These pucks are going to shoot circle AoEs at me. Now, another really big hint. Do you see this aggro list? I think I mentioned this in the last video. I mentioned how this aggro list you can use to target enemies. What I didn't mention is that you can actually see enemies casting spells in your aggro list. This can be incredibly useful for keeping track of enemies using key skills that are extra dangerous. Also, sometimes bosses will summon like an object that's not targetable, but it has a name on the aggro list, and you can use that to see the spell that it's casting and determine what to do with it. It can be used for timing. It can be used just for general interruption or dodging. It's a very, very good idea to put the aggro list in a place that is easy to access, easy to click on, easy to read, everything. You just want to make sure that it's somewhat incorporated into your gameplay. And the sooner you do that, the better. Yeah, so see how, like, I could stand all the way back there and hit this Goobboo from, like, way far away. But what's the benefit in doing that? Like, let's say I wanted to do an AoE spell, and I wanted to hit all of them with the AoE spell. I don't want to be, like, over by that wall just because I can hit the target. I need to stand up close enough to them so that they can benefit from it. Now, I do have a spell at this level. It's Medica. You generally don't get to use this kind of spell very often. And in this particular case, funnily enough, it doesn't even work on the NPCs. They need to be manually targeted. Probably to make sure that you actually understand that you're healing them. But it's still funny to me that you have an AoE spell that just doesn't work at this level. My cure sucks at this level. Oh, if you do your level 15 class quest before doing this, also, by the way, this is way easier. It's just a matter of which you do first. Your level 15 class quest or this. The level 15 class quest giving you a level 15 weapon is obviously going to make this go a lot smoother. And that will get me my brand new ring. And it got me to level 16. You do get EXP from that. And for my brand new ring, yeah, it's got +3 to all the main stats, even +3 vitality, +3. So you use it on every job. And it's got increases EXP by 30% when level 30 or and below. It is indeed very good. Look at that. Item level 30. Yeah, so you definitely want to go out of your way and do that as soon as possible. Remember when I mentioned the sound aggro thing about 20 minutes ago? Remember when I just simply walked past this thing? Yeah, the aggro types isn't too relevant until later on. There's certain content where it's incredibly relevant. Most of the time at this level, it's not relevant at all. And you know what? Let me make sure that, because generally skeletons are sound aggro, but let me make sure these specific ones are. It's a hangover from like Final Fantasy XI that they just decided to use here too. Pretty sure these are all sound aggro. Let me just go step in front of this guy. Because they don't have... the general rule of thumb is, if it doesn't have eyes... Oh, no, these are actually sight. Okay. Okay, so they made these ones sight aggro. Now, however, that still makes the point that sometimes walking behind mobs can be a blessing. If you just want to get through an area without having to deal with all the mobs. Sometimes you may just want to just walk behind them. The sound aggro thing exists. It's a thing even outside of... Oh, I know a mob that's really good at showcasing it. We were not going to encounter that mob for a while. Dullahans are very good at showcasing sound aggro. And there's some other ones as well. Also, bear in mind that if something has this symbol next to its name, where my mouse cursor is right there, that little like triangle, that means they aggro at all. If they don't have that symbol, if it's a different symbol, it either means they're a much stronger mob that aggros, or that symbol right there means they don't aggro at all. Which, by the way, I need to kill him for my hunting log. Yeah, I'm not even on the level 15 MSQ yet. And I'm already level 16. I've got Guildhest unlocked. I got to get my challenge log unlocked. Like, it also helps if you're a player who doesn't play frequently. Having that rested XP every single time you log in, honestly, it is a really big blessing, and one that I'm going to have largely throughout the series, because I'm not going to be playing this character often enough for me to... I'm not going to say I'll never run out of it, but it's highly unlikely that unless I pick up a new class and start from level 1, it's highly unlikely that I'll burn through it. And that will happen at some point. However, this recording is already over an hour, so I think that's going to be a wrap. We got through the Hall of the Novice. I got to explain a whole bunch of beginner-related stuff. And now you get to stew on this video for another week. So if you're enjoying the Final Fantasy XIV Let's Play Return, be sure to put it in the comment section of the video below. Be sure to like and subscribe. And with that, I will see you in the next part. I'm going to get back to Cosmic Exploration because I got a video to make on that too. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Until then, take care.